The fluorescent lights of Chicago's Rush University Medical Center hummed softly in the pediatric ward, mixing with the distant beep of monitors and the hushed voices of night shift nurses. Outside, October wind rattled the windows, carrying the first hint of the brutal winter that would soon grip the city. Inside room 412, 10-year-old Maya Chen sat in her wheelchair, staring at the reflection of a stranger in the darkened window. The girl looking back at her wore a hospital gown, had an 4-port in her arm, and eyes that had seen too much pain for someone who should be worried about sleepovers and school plays. 2 years ago, Maya had been a dancer. Not just any dancer, but one of the most promising young talents in Chicago's competitive dance scene. She'd won regional championships in the junior division, caught the attention of prestigious dance academies, and had dreams so big they scared her in the best possible way. Then came the diagnosis: osteosarcoma, bone cancer in her left leg. The treatments had been aggressive: chemotherapy that left her weak and nauseous, surgeries that tried to save the limb, and finally, 6 months ago, the amputation that saved her life but took her identity. "I'm not a dancer anymore," she told her mother after the surgery, tears streaming down her face. "I'm just broken." Her mother had held her, smoothed her hair, and said what mothers say when their hearts are breaking alongside their children's. "You're alive, baby. That's what matters. You're alive." But being alive and wanting to be alive were two different things, and Maya had been struggling with that difference every day since. Tonight was supposed to be different. Her mother had arranged something special, a visit from the Michael Jackson Legacy Foundation, which partnered with hospitals to bring music therapy and entertainment to long-term patients. Maya had been a massive Michael Jackson fan since childhood. Her room at home was covered with posters. Her first dance competition had been to one of his songs, and her dream, the dream she'd carried through every painful treatment, had been to dance on the same stage he had. That dream was dead now, buried alongside the leg she'd lost. The sound of excited voices in the hallway pulled Maya from her dark thoughts. Nurses were whispering urgently, and she could hear the charge nurse, Patricia, trying to maintain order. "Please, everyone needs to stay calm and professional. Yes, it's really him. Yes, he's here. No, you cannot abandon your patients to get autographs." Maya's heart skipped. Really him? That was impossible. Michael Jackson didn't make hospital visits himself. He sent representatives, performers, sometimes impersonators. But the energy in the hallway suggested something extraordinary was happening. Her door opened, and her mother rushed in, eyes wide with an excitement Maya hadn't seen in months. "Baby, you need to sit up. Fix your hair. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening." "Mom, what?" "He's here. Michael Jackson is actually here. In this hospital. Coming to this floor." Maya felt her stomach drop. Of all the nights for this to happen, it had to be tonight, when she looked terrible, felt worse, and had spent the last hour crying about everything she'd lost. She wanted to hide, to disappear, to be anywhere but here. But before she could protest, there was a gentle knock on her door. Patricia entered first, her professional composure barely containing her excitement. Behind her, wearing a simple black jacket, fedora, and that unmistakable presence that filled a room before he even fully entered it, was Michael Jackson. "Maya," Patricia said, her voice warm, "you have a very special visitor." Michael stepped into the room, and Maya forgot how to breathe. This wasn't an impersonator or a hologram or a dream. This was actually him, in her hospital room, looking at her with eyes that seemed to see past all her walls and defenses. "Hello, Maya," he said softly, removing his fedora. "I hope it's okay that I stopped by. I heard you were a dancer." Were. Past tense. The word hit her like a physical blow, and suddenly tears were streaming down her face before she could stop them. She tried to wipe them away, mortified, but they kept coming. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "I'm so sorry. I was a dancer. Before. Now I'm just." She couldn't finish. Couldn't say the words that haunted her every moment. Michael crossed the room with that distinctive glide that seemed to defy gravity, and knelt beside her wheelchair so they were at eye level. His face held such gentle understanding that it made her cry harder. "You're just what, Maya? Still a dancer? Because that's what I see. A dancer who's facing the hardest choreography of her life." "But I can't," she gestured to her leg, or where her leg used to be. "I can't dance anymore. Not really. Not the way I did. I'm only 10. My whole life was supposed to be about dancing, and now. Can I tell you something? Michael's voice was quiet, meant only for her even though her mother and Patricia stood nearby. Some of the most powerful dancing I've ever seen came from people who the world said couldn't dance. People who had every reason to stop but found a way to keep moving anyway. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Chicago skyline. When I was young, people tried to tell me there were limits to what I could do. My body couldn't do this, my voice couldn't reach that, my style wasn't right for this or that. But I learned something important. Dancing isn't just about the steps you can do. It's about the story you tell, the emotion you share, the way you make people feel. He turned back to her. You lost a leg, Maya. You didn't lose your rhythm. You didn't lose your heart. You didn't lose the thing that made you a dancer in the first place. Maya stared at him, wanting desperately to believe but unable to see past her loss. You don't understand. My whole life was dance. I had been accepted into a prestigious youth program. Teachers said I could go anywhere. I was going to, her voice cracked. My dream was to dance with you. On a real stage. And now that's impossible. I'm just a kid who can't dance anymore. The room fell silent. Michael studied her for a long moment, and something shifted in his expression, a decision being made in real time. What if it's not impossible? He said quietly. What? Your dream. To dance with me. What if we could make that happen? Maya's mother gasped. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. Maya felt her heart hammering so hard she could hear it. I don't understand, Maya whispered. Michael pulled out his phone and made a quick call, speaking quietly to someone named Carlos. When he finished, he looked at Maya's doctor, who had appeared in the doorway drawn by the commotion. Dr. Patel, is it medically safe for Maya to leave the hospital for a few hours? With proper support and supervision. Dr. Patel blinked in surprise. Well, yes, technically she's stable enough for short supervised outings. We've been encouraging her to do more of that, actually. But then here's what's going to happen. Michael's voice carried quiet authority. Tomorrow evening, I have a private rehearsal session at the Chicago Theater. It's closed to the public, just my team working on some choreography. Maya, I want you there. I want you to dance with me. But I can't, Maya started. Yes, you can. Maybe not the way you did before. But you can dance. And I'm going to help you discover how. He knelt beside her wheelchair again. I'm not offering you pity, Maya. I'm offering you partnership. Tomorrow night, we're going to create something together. Something new. Something that proves dance isn't about having two legs or perfect technique. It's about having the courage to move when everything in you wants to stay still. Maya couldn't speak. Couldn't process what was happening. Her mother was crying. Patricia was crying. Even Dr. Patel's eyes were misty. There's just one condition, Michael continued. You have to promise me you'll try. Really try. Not just go through the motions because I'm asking, but actually open yourself to the possibility that you're still a dancer. Can you do that? Maya looked at him, at this legend who had somehow seen past her broken body to something she'd thought was lost forever. And despite every reason to protect herself from more disappointment, she nodded. I'll try, she whispered. I promise I'll try. Good. Michael smiled, and it transformed his face. Then I'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Wear something you feel strong in. And Maya, bring your heart. That's the only equipment you really need. The next 24 hours passed in a blur. Maya barely slept, terror and excitement warring inside her. Her mother helped her choose an outfit, black leggings and a purple top that had always made her feel powerful. Physical therapists came to fit her with a better prosthetic leg than the basic one she'd been using for mobility, something with more flexibility and response. Dr. Patel checked her vitals 3 times, making sure she was strong enough for this. But the hardest work was happening inside Maya's head. Years of dance training warred with months of grief and loss. Part of her wanted to believe Michael's words, but another part whispered that she was setting herself up for humiliation. What if she couldn't do it? What if she fell? What if she proved, once and for all, that her dancing days were over? At 5:30 p.m., a car arrived at the hospital. Not a limousine, but a comfortable van with wheelchair access and a kind driver named James who chatted easily with Maya and her mother during the drive to the theater. He talked about working with Michael for years, about the artist's genuine commitment to helping young people, about the magic that happened when Michael was creating. The Chicago theater loomed before them, its iconic marquee dark since this was a private session. James led them through a side entrance, down corridors lined with photographs of legends who had performed on this stage, until they reached the wings. The stage itself was lit with soft worklights, creating an intimate atmosphere despite the vast empty seats stretching into darkness. Michael was there with 2 other dancers and a choreographer, working through movements while music played softly from the sound system. When he saw Maya being wheeled in, he immediately stopped and walked over. "You came," he said simply, as if there had been any chance she wouldn't. "I promised I'd try," Maya replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "That's all I ask." He gestured to the stage. "Come on. Let me introduce you to everyone." With James's help, Maya transferred from her wheelchair to stand on the legendary stage. The wooden boards felt sacred beneath her feet, one real, one prosthetic. This was where Sinatra had sung, where Baryshnikov had leaped, where countless artists had poured their souls into performance. And now she stood here, broken and terrified and somehow exactly where she needed to be. Michael introduced his team, choreographer Wade Robson, and dancers Travis and Keiko, both of whom greeted Maya with warmth and zero pity. They treated her like a colleague, not a patient, and something in Maya responded to that respect. "Okay," Michael said, standing beside her. "First rule, there's no wrong way to do this. We're not trying to recreate what you did before. We're discovering what you can do now. And Maya, I have a feeling it's going to be extraordinary." He started with simple movements, swaying to the music, finding the rhythm in her hips and shoulders. Maya moved tentatively at first, hyper-aware of her prosthetic, of her balance, of everything that felt different and wrong. "Stop thinking," Michael said gently. "Just feel the music. Your body knows what to do." He began to move beside her, his movements flowing and effortless. Not showing off, just dancing, inviting her to join him in that space where music and movement became one. And slowly, cautiously, Maya let herself stop analyzing and start feeling. The music washed over her, a slow, soulful melody that seemed to understand grief and hope in equal measure. Michael's presence beside her felt like a safety net, giving her permission to try, to fail, to try again. When she wobbled, he was there, his hand offering support without making her feel weak. When she found a movement that worked, he mirrored it, amplifying it, making it feel significant. "There," he said when she successfully executed a turn she'd been afraid to attempt. "See? You're dancing." Tears streamed down Maya's face, but this time they weren't tears of grief. They were tears of recognition, recognizing herself in the movements, recognizing that something she'd thought was dead was actually just transformed. Over the next 2 hours, they created together. Michael and Wade worked with Maya to develop choreography that honored her abilities rather than highlighting her limitations. They incorporated her wheelchair, using it not as a crutch but as a prop, spinning it, dancing around it, making it part of the art. They found movements that showcased her incredible upper body control, her natural grace, her emotional expressiveness. And then Michael did something Maya never expected. He asked her to teach him. "Show me how you adapt that turn with your prosthetic. I want to understand the mechanics, the balance point. Teach me your version." The role reversal was profound. Suddenly Maya wasn't the patient being helped by the legend. She was the expert sharing her unique knowledge. Michael listened intently, tried her adaptations, asked questions with genuine curiosity. He treated her methodology as innovation, not limitation. "This is brilliant," he said after successfully completing the turn her way. "This is how dance evolves, when we refuse to be limited by convention and instead create new languages of movement." As the session progressed, something miraculous happened. Maya stopped thinking about what she couldn't do and started exploring what she could. She discovered that her prosthetic allowed for different pivot points than a flesh and bone leg. She found that her increased upper body strength from wheelchair use gave her power in movements she'd never emphasized before. She learned that dancing with one leg demanded more creative use of arms, torso, and head, and that creativity was making her more expressive, not less. "Let's try something," Michael said as they neared the end of the session. He had the sound engineer cue up a new song, something with a driving beat and soaring melody. I'm going to freestyle. You freestyle with me. No choreography, no plan. Just two dancers responding to music and each other. Can you do that? Maya's heart pounded. Freestyle was terrifying even for able-bodied dancers. But she'd promised to try. I can do that, she said. The music started. Michael began to move, his body interpreting the rhythm with that otherworldly control he was famous for. Maya watched for a moment, finding the spaces in his movement, and then she joined him. What happened next felt like flying. She spun in her wheelchair, stopped suddenly and rose, moved in syncopation with Michael's steps. When he popped and locked, she found corresponding movements in her upper body. When he glided, she rolled, creating a different kind of flow. They weren't mirroring each other, they were conversing, call and response in physical form. The boundaries dissolved. There was no prosthetic leg, no disability, no limitation. There was only music and movement and the pure joy of expression that Maya had thought was lost forever. When the song ended, Maya was breathing hard, sweating, exhausted, and more alive than she'd felt in 2 years. Michael stood in front of her, hands on his knees, equally winded, and when he looked up, his smile was radiant. That, he said between breaths, was dancing. Real dancing. The kind that comes from the soul, not just the feet. The small team erupted in applause. Wade was filming on his phone, tears on his face. Travis and Keiko were cheering. Maya's mother was openly sobbing in the wings. Michael helped Maya back to her wheelchair, and as she sat, the adrenaline began to fade, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion that somehow felt good. Earned. She'd worked for this tiredness, creating something rather than just enduring treatment. How do you feel? Michael asked, crouching beside her chair. Like a dancer, Maya whispered. For the first time since the surgery, I feel like a dancer. That's because you are one. He squeezed her hand. You've always been one. You just had to find your new language. Michael pulled out his phone again, this time showing her what he was texting. It was a message to someone at a prestigious youth dance academy in Chicago, one that specialized in working with young dancers of all abilities. There are programs specifically designed for young dancers like you, Maya. Places that understand that talent and passion matter more than having a perfect body. He looked at her seriously. I can't promise it will be easy. But I can promise it will be worth it. You're only 10 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you to redefine what dance means. Maya stared at the screen, at the possibility crystallizing before her eyes. You'd do that? Help me keep dancing even though I'm just a kid. Especially because you're just a kid, Michael corrected gently. You have time to grow, to learn, to become something even more amazing than you were before. 10 years old isn't the end of your story, Maya. It's barely the beginning. As the evening wound down, Michael gathered everyone together on stage. Maya in her wheelchair, her mother, the dancers, Wade, and the small crew who had witnessed this private miracle. I want to say something about tonight, Michael began. Maya came here thinking she'd lost everything that mattered to her. But what she actually lost was just one version of her dream. Tonight, she discovered new dreams are possible. Better dreams, because they're built on truth instead of perfection. He turned to Maya. You taught me something tonight. You taught everyone here something. You showed us that limitations are just invitations to innovate. That the end of one path is just the beginning of another. And that real artists don't let circumstances define them. They let their response to circumstances reveal their character. Michael took something from his pocket, a small box. I want you to have this. Inside was a simple silver bracelet engraved with words Maya had to read 3 times before they fully registered. Still dancing, MJ 2024. When things get hard, and they will get hard, I want you to look at this and remember tonight. Remember that you danced on the Chicago theater stage. Remember that you created something new and beautiful out of loss. Remember that you're not broken. You're evolved. Maya couldn't speak through her tears. Could only nod and clutch the bracelet like a lifeline. The ride back to the hospital was quiet, but it was a different quiet than the one that had filled Maya's days for months. This silence held peace instead of despair, possibility instead of grief. Her mother held her hand, and neither of them needed to speak to understand that something fundamental had shifted. Back in room 412, as nurses helped Maya settle in for the night, she looked at the bracelet on her wrist and then at her reflection in the darkened window. The girl looking back at her still wore a hospital gown and had an 4-port in her arm. But her eyes were different now. They held light instead of shadow, determination instead of defeat. She was still a dancer. Just a different kind of dancer than she'd planned to be. And maybe, just maybe, that was going to be okay. Dr. Patel stopped by for evening rounds and found Maya sitting up in bed, notebook open, sketching out choreography ideas. "Someone had a good evening," the doctor observed with a smile. "I danced," Maya said simply. "I really danced." "And Dr. Patel?" "I'm going to dance again. Different than before, but still me." "That's wonderful, Maya." That's exactly the attitude that leads to real recovery, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual too. After the doctor left, Maya opened her laptop and began researching Juilliard's adaptive dance program. She watched videos of performers who danced with prosthetics, wheelchairs, and conditions far more challenging than hers. Each video showed her that the world of dance was bigger and more inclusive than she'd known. That her story wasn't over, it was just entering a new chapter. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When she opened it, she found a video attachment and a message. "Maya, this is Wade. Michael wanted you to have this. We think you're pretty special. Keep dancing, young lady. WR." The video was footage from their freestyle session. Watching it, Maya hardly recognized herself. The dancer on screen moved with confidence and creativity, using every tool available to tell a story. The prosthetic leg wasn't hidden, it was incorporated, celebrated even. And the joy on her face was unmistakable. She watched the video 3 times, then sent it to her dance friends from before, the ones from her youth dance classes, the ones she'd pushed away after the amputation because seeing them hurt too much. Along with the video, she wrote, "I'm still here. I'm still dancing. And I have so much to tell you." The responses came quickly. Messages of love, amazement, encouragement. Her friend Sophie wrote, "That's the Maya I remember. I never should have doubted you'd find your way back." But Maya knew the truth. She hadn't found her way back. She'd found her way forward. To something new, unexpected, and possibly better than what she'd left behind. 3 months later, Maya received her acceptance letter to Juilliard's adaptive dance program. 6 months after that, she performed in her first showcase, a piece she'd choreographed herself about transformation and rebirth. In the audience sat her mother, Dr. Patel, her physical therapists, and, sitting quietly in the back row, Michael Jackson and Wade Robson. After the performance, Michael met her backstage. "You did it," he said simply. "We did it," Maya corrected. "You showed me it was possible." "No," Michael shook his head. "I just reminded you of what you already had inside you. You did the hard work of believing it and making it real." Years later, when Maya had her own adaptive dance company and was working with young dancers facing their own challenges, she kept 2 things in her studio. One was that silver bracelet, now worn smooth from years of wear. The other was a photograph from that night at the Chicago Theater. Her and Michael, mid-movement, both caught in that perfect moment where struggle transforms into art. Beneath the photo, a caption read, "My dream was to dance with you. Thank you for showing me that dreams don't die, they evolve." And whenever a new student came to her, broken and believing their dancing days were over, Maya would tell them about the night Michael Jackson heard her say those words and chose to do something extraordinary. Not just grant a wish, but teach her that the wish was too small. That her dreams needed to grow, not shrink. That loss was just the beginning of transformation. "Dancing isn't about the body you have," she would tell them, echoing words that had saved her life. "It's about the story you tell, the emotion you share, the way you make people feel. And that lives in your heart, not your legs." Then she would smile, gesture to the floor, and say what Michael had said to her, "Now show me what you can do. Not what you used to do, not what you wish you could do. Show me what you can do right now, exactly as you are. Because I have a feeling it's going to be extraordinary." And it always was.